Yeah, the TED Talk that I am discussing today is from Martin Villanueva, titled How I Made an Impossible Film. This TED Talk basically explains how Martin took a dream, had very little money, asked a lot of famous people for help, didn't know they were going to help him, but they did for little to no money. And it shows how it took him 7 years to produce a film that normally would take 25 million. He did it in right about 3. So this TED Talk basically discusses what it takes to dream, to make a movie, and to complete your dream and to have it succeed. One of the punch methods that Martin used was that he challenged how it took him to get the money together, to get the staff together, to to ask people for favors that he didn't even know. He thought they would just dismiss him. That's how basically one of the punch methods that Martin used. Another way that he used to get personal with his audience was when he told them as a kid he read comic books and he dreamed about what the future would look like. Now that dream turned into reading the comic books turned into a dream. The dream turned into a book that he wrote when he was an adult. One of his mentors told him that you should take this book and make it into a movie. And the only way you're going to be able to do it is you need to direct it, you need to write it, and you need to produce it all by yourself. You need to hire a staff that is in the same mind thinking of you is. If you want to dream, this is the place that you need to go. You're not going to be get rich by working for me, but you're free to dream. You're free to let your imagination run wild, and that's two of the punch uh, methods that he used directly in his speech. And like I said, it instantly connected him to anybody who dreamt of what the future would look like as a kid, or if they read comic books, because this is basically taking your imagination, putting it on paper, writing it, taking that to a movie. And the way that Martin was able to actually do this movie is green screens. I mean, you take this background behind me. If this was a green screen, you can create a whole movie behind me and just Photoshop me in, Photoshop me out. So it's basically you don't have to go to a film place to or a certain location to film. You can film in a studio, and it would seem as if you were on Mars. It's just the green screen actually helps for financial reasons. It helps you create the movie on such a short notice. The movie was titled Mars et Avril. I don't even know how to really pronounce it, but Mars et Avril. But it's a good movie. I seen during the presentation he showed clips of what a green screen is. Like I said, it only took $2.3 million to do it. If this movie was to be made in America by any Hollywood studio, minimum of $25 million. So he did it next to nothing. This guy's from Canada. He speaks a little French, and uh, basically, uh, one way that he explains on how you can create a movie on such a short budget for little to no movie is time. You got to have enough time to do it. You can't rush a project like this and have it come out the way you want it to. Like I said, this project took 7 years, and you got to have love for your project and passion. If you don't love your project, you're not going to put 100% into it. You're going to just slack on things, and because you're going to be worried about your budget. This guy didn't worry about budget. He just went into it, took 7 years, did it, and now it's completed, and it's a success. So it's basically tells you how he was able to do it. And uh, Martin also tells of emotive storytelling. He tells of a guy named Robert who encouraged him to take the dream that he had as a kid, reading comic books, right, take it into a book, and he read that book, said this should be a movie, and he encouraged him to do it. He's his mentor, so he wanted Robert to be in this movie. So as soon as Robert's one of the busiest guys on the planet, schedule's booked until 2042. So there's no way he could ever be in the movie. So what they did is they had him come to the studio, read scripts and read lines, and what they would do is they would put him behind a green screen, and they would kind of put a little thing around his neck to where they would have when you do a green screen, you can Photoshop his head into anybody's body. So Robert wasn't physically in the movie; he was physically in a studio reading from a script, and then they had a guy that had a gray mask on that had the same neck thing around it. So they just incorporated Robert's head onto this body, so you would think that Robert was really in the movie. And this is all, he woke up from a dream and just decided, how can I get Robert in this movie? This is the way financially he can get him in without charging him money, and that's how he got Robert in the movie. His dream was accomplished just by that one. He basically wanted to prove how constraints can boost creativity, the financials. Now, if he had 25 million, the movie probably would have been maybe better. Who knows? But when you're so constrained with money, it helps you create where you didn't before need to create. See, this guy Martin had to create like Hollywood studios don't. He had to just basically think of ways, cheap ways to do things to make it look real, to make it the audience believe that it's a futuristic type of movie. So this is basically a movie about the future. Um, One of the examples of his movie, how he proved this, is when Robert came to him. He said, "Hey, you don't have a lot of money, so and instead of paying a producer, paying a director, paying a writer, you're going to be all those three in one, and you're going to work for free. You're going to go get staff that are probably a lot of your friends that are going to work for next to nothing, but they'll have the opportunity to incorporate themselves into the movie." Uh, like I said, that's one way that this presentation stood away from the other ones. Was he had some slideshows there, some slides, all that good stuff there. Only one slide had information, like writings and all that. That slide basically, and it's funny how this story happens. That slide is how he actually got one scene in the movie that he dreamt a long time ago. It was a music scene in the movie where he wanted to make the musical instruments be in the shape of a woman's body and women's body parts. So he didn't have the money to do that. So he's in Canada. He went to the general manager of Cirque du Soleil, and he had a whole design, whole sketchings of what he wanted it to look like. So he went to this guy, told him he didn't have money. Most people go there, they're too scared to go to him because they're afraid of rejection. But this guy, he already got Robert into his movie, so he didn't really care. He went to the GM of Cirque du Soleil, and he actually got him to make these movie props for free. And he did it before he started making them, so it's pretty much next to nothing. It's just all perception. It's not like building a whole new like construction building. It's just perception. You perceive that they're playing from instruments that are similar to women's body parts. And like I said, when Robert he showed you exactly how he did the whole green screen method with Robert. He just made him sit in the studio, and this was a 1 minute clip of before and after of how Robert looked in the studio behind the green screen with just his head, and it showed the guy, the gray guy, or the guy that had the gray mask on, where they photoshopped Robert's head in, and they showed the body and how he moved, and then they showed how they incorporated it into the movie. I think that reached the audience because it showed step for step how he was able to get his favorite actor in the movie for free, and still made the people who actually saw the movie believe that this guy was in the movie, which is crazy. The other way that so that those are both ways and how he gave examples on how constraints can help boost creativity, is where you're you don't have a lot to work with, but that brings out the creative thought process to where you need to get it done. You need to figure a way to get out to get it done. You're doing a movie. You got to make it believable, and that's one of the two ways that he actually did that. Um, I think he communicated clearly with his audience. Yes, he's Canadian. He has a slight French accent, but he got his main points across. The audience knew what he was doing. The audience, he was making jokes, making eye contact. The audience, I feel, was empathetic, especially the audience members that read comic books or ever dreamed of what the future would look like. This is his dream. It shows you no matter what obstacles are in front of you, you can probably do it. You just have to stay focused. And the examples that he gave on how constraints can boost creativity, that's the perfect example. I think that he should have renamed this whole TED speech how to boost how constraints can help boost creativity. So it's basically his dream came true. He made the movie, the green screens, like as if this was a green screen behind me. It helped him be able to financially afford it with only a little bit of money. And it shows how no matter how famous a person is, if you need them for something, just ask them. What's the worst they can say is no. And if you don't ask them, you don't even have a chance to even accomplish your dream. And that's my TED analysis.